Hello everyone, Killer Shrew Fan here, and today we will finally be taking a look at the other Battle at Big Rock dinosaur from Mattel. I am speaking, of course, of the Allosaurus, the dual attack variant that came to us at the beginning of summer. But before I get into that, I kind of want to do a little discussion video here. Now, if you're no stranger to the Jurassic fandom, then you may have already heard that the Battle at Big Rock short film that these toys were meant to promote was actually delayed. It did not come to theaters along with the Hobbs and Shaw film like it was initially supposed to. And now, Walmarts everywhere are clearancing their dual attacks by 50% off. It wasn't a gradual decrease in price, it was a drop, like a straight drop, which, leads me to believe that they wanted to get these things off the shelf, which, also points to the fact that possibly Universal wanted Mattel to kind of sweep these under the rugs with the delay in the film. They didn't want toys on the shelf that were promoting a project that would not be seen by the public. Battle at Big Rock, they want to kind of just wipe it off the map for people, and in order to do that, they had to get rid of these toys. So now they're disappearing and they won't be stocked again, and that's after a relatively short shelf life. The future of Hobbs and Shaw is doing fine at the box office to my knowledge, but the future of Battle at Big Rock is now in the air. I'm not going to go into detail here about what the future holds for Battle at Big Rock, but I will be kind of talking about my thoughts on what the cancellation, or rather not cancellation, but the sudden clean sweep of these toys means for the collecting community. Personally, I feel with the combination of their short-lived shelf date, these things popped up back in May and they only made it through to end of July-ish, so about 2 months, and there are some toys that have sat on shelves for about a year from Mattel, so really 2 months is not a lot in the grand scheme of things before these things started to disappear. So that, combined with the fact that Mattel and Universal kind of want these things gone, leads me to believe that these will be special down the line. So honestly, it's kind of going to be hard for me to crack this one open, but given the sales, I was able to get a second one, and I figured it was high time to do a review for you. So that's it for the whole discussion video about the cancellation of Battle at Big Rock and my thoughts on what it means for these particular figures. I mean, I do think they will be considered special down the line. Honestly, I know they were out easily accessible, and there were a lot of them at times, but honestly, the short lifespan and the sort of more canceled nature of what they were promoting makes me feel like, yeah, they're kind of unique. So, without further ado, we're going to go ahead and take a closer look at the special packaging we have with these Battle at Big Rock dinosaurs, and then we're going to go ahead and open it up and give you a closer look at the dinosaur itself. So, without further ado, let's do this! So the box is pretty standard to what we have seen from Mattel in the past and from the Battle at Big Rock offerings, with the Dino Rivals sort of theme going on and the purple striping and Battle at Big Rock aesthetics thrown in. Taking a closer look, in the top left corner you've got the Jurassic World logo, then running along the bottom you can see the Dino Rivals logo with the T-Rex squaring off against the Triceratops against that beautiful purple stripe that really adds some great contrast to the box overall. Here you can see the Dual Attack Allosaurus title and the As Seen in Battle at Big Rock advertisement there, again with this sort of purple striping going on, and I gotta say, it really does give this thing a splash of color that draws your eye to it, more so than other offerings from the Dino Rivals line. Here you can see the push button indicators at the top of the box, and if we take a look at the back of the box, again, pretty standard to what we have seen from Mattel in the past. You've got the glamour shot that better explains to you all of the action features that come with the dinosaur in question. With this Allosaurus, you have got slashing action and a big chomp, and there you can see a rather unfortunate Celeris, if I'm saying that correctly, being attacked by our big bad Allosaurus here. In the bottom left corner, you can see the other two dinosaurs that were part of this dual attack wave. You've got the Nasutoceratops and Concavenator. Both are now out of stock at every Walmart within a close radius of me. They are still available at Target and Amazon. The top left corner reminds you to get the Jurassic World Facts app so you can scan a digital copy of your dinosaur into your phone and learn all sorts of cool facts about the species. Alright, enough about the box. I think it is time we get this particular asset out of containment. So this is just a simple matter of quick snip. Maybe. Not so quick, I guess. Quick snip. And that's it. The Allosaurus is now free, but we're not stopping there. I'm going to set him aside for a second. We have to get to the back of the box once again and cut out our trading card. So here we can see the Dino Rivals card that comes with this Allosaurus. As you can see, you've got a lovely rendering of the dinosaur itself. I don't know if anyone else has noticed this, but this drawing looks like it's straight up just cover art of the Mojo Allosaurus toy. I don't know. I see this thing and that's immediately what I think of. I think it looks almost identical to that particular figure. Maybe I'm crazier than an outhouse rat. I don't know. Either way, looks good in these colors. And then, of course, you've got the stats. This thing comes in with a 7 for strength, a 7 for speed, a 3 for intelligence, so not very bright, but it makes up for its lack of intelligence with some high ferocity points, coming in at 8, giving it a grand score of 25. I don't remember off the top of my head how well that stacks up next to its Nasutoceratops counterpart, but yes, that's all there is to the trading card. Let's go ahead and bring in the Allosaurus itself. So there you can see we've got our Allosaurus from Mattel, not really wanting to stand in this review space. This might be a very interesting video. I'm just kind of going to hold him. Oh, no, he'll stand in his rearing position, I guess. Well, maybe not. So yes, right off the bat, we have got balancing issues on my review space. Just want to note that. I'm going to test it out and let you know after we cut here if it does stand on a more flush surface. But yeah, out of the box, I gotta say, this thing does have a good heft to it. Sometimes Mattel's offerings do feel kind of plasticky, kind of light, kind of cheap. This one does not. It does have a weight to it, and I think the Nasutoceratops was the same way. So now, without further ado, I think it's time we give you guys a closer look at this dinosaur. Let's do this! So taking a look at the head of this Allosaurus, as you can see, Mattel have not let us down in the detail department. You've got all of these tiny minuscule scales that are really prevalent in this lighting here, along with a bunch of ridges and spikes and bumps around the eye area, and then of course you've got the iconic Allosaurus crest at the back of the head. For some reason, that I don't know why they don't come up above the eyes. They've been moved to the back of the skull here, but it's whatever. The teeth are an improvement upon the last offering from Mattel. They've also gone and fixed that box-shaped jaw here. They still have got that awesome polar bear tongue in there with a nice gloss coating to give it some sheen. And then, yes, if I close the jaws here, you can see how much better those teeth are. They don't hang over the lower mandible. They look like they actually fit inside the mouth of this Allosaurus. It feels much more realistic and looks much better in person. The lower jaw also has some lovely musculature, as you can see the flexing ripple there. But the opposite side of the head is really the same story in terms of the detail department with all the scales, ridges, spikes. Unfortunately, the eye is a little bit sloppy on this side. It kind of runs over onto the eyelid, but Mattel has been struggling with their eye painting lately, so I can't say that this is the odd man out, at least for me. Most of my dinosaurs that I get from Mattel do have the issue with that eye. But yes, the detailing is really the same story on this side. And then, of course, at the back of the skull, I didn't mention, that's where the row of spikes starts at the top. And as you can see, it proceeds all the way down to the base of the shoulders, kind of putters out over the buttons, but then picks up again at the base of the tail. But taking a look at the body itself, it's pretty apparent, you know, that this is really the same body from the previous Allosaurus. They didn't change anything about the midsection save for adding the spikes to it. The tail is different, the head is different, the neck, legs, arms, and midsection are all really the same. The detailing, though, is, you know, impressive. Like I said, it's the same sculpt, so it's gonna be just as impressive as the last Roarivore. You've got scales, the rib cage, a lovely fold of skin separating the abdomen from the stomach, and then of course you've got lovely scars, scratches, and scrapes that give this thing a really weathered look and gives it a little bit more character. Taking a look at the feet here, you've got some lovely plate scaling at the back of the toes. The toe claws themselves are done with a lovely black color with a nice shellac coating to give them some sheen. There's lovely musculature in the thighs and calves, and the folds of skin around the bent joints is absolutely gorgeous. I love the amount of attention that Mattel gives to these things and how they would actually move and look in different positions. It gives it a very naturalistic and believable sculpt, and I think Mattel deserves some praise for that. Now, if we take a look at the arms, again, those arms are the exact same arms from the Roarivore Allosaurus, but, you know, they are still good. Their musculature in the bicep and tricep region is just massive. This thing looks like it does a lot of lifting. And then, of course, the hand claws are nice and spindly, not painted, but that is, of course, par for the course. If we take a look at the underbelly here, you can see that they have given a nice subtle texturing in terms of wrinkles and a sort of sandpaper-esque scaling. Then at the back left foot, you've got the QR code. So if you want to scan this Allosaurus into your phone, now is your chance to do so. Taking a look at the pose of this Allosaurus, it's pretty standard to the Mattel pose. It's pretty neutral with the left leg sort of forward, the right leg bracing back against the ground. And then the tail is probably the most extreme element, with it having that sharp curve off to the right and sort of curling around in a curly Q. But really, that's about it. I think that's really done to just kind of make sure that it fits within the confines of the box. But yes, beyond that, pretty standard stuff for Mattel. As far as the paint scheme goes, you've got this sort of lovely tan base coloration with the purple at the back that gradiates into a lighter purple at the top of the head, and it gradiates very smoothly. It's a very nice transition that doesn't... Oops. Now, there is one big issue that I have with this model, and it's one that you've all heard before from other reviewers, and it's that proportionally, this thing is an absolute disaster. There's no denying that each individual area of this thing is incredibly well done, but ultimately, the individual pieces are too big to fit the whole. Too big or too small. Like, for example, if I cover up the tail here, it looks much better. Or if I cover up the legs here, it looks like this midsection and head are fantastic. But altogether, the head, if I cover up the head, this isn't bad, but altogether, the tail is too small for that big body, the legs are too small to support that big body, and the head is too massive for that little body. So you see where the issues are coming from here. Not to mention that the massive head and smaller midsection, or smaller legs and tail, makes this thing want to consistently fall forward. It doesn't have the counterbalance it needs, and therefore it has to be permanently posed in this sort of rearing posture. It's been a few days since I recorded this video, and I can honestly say that when I stand in parallel to the floor, he does still want to go forward. He will last a little bit longer than the Roarivore, so credit where credit is due, but ultimately, the massive head, small tail, and big legs, small legs, don't work together. As far as articulation goes, the legs can go forward and backwards. The left leg has that sort of pop-in point, as you can see. Unfortunately, the right leg doesn't really have one except way in the back there, which leads me to believe that Mattel wants you to pose this thing in this sort of rearing position, which, you know, is kind of limiting if you ask me, the fact that they only put that locking joint there. Of course, the arms can rotate in and outwards to get that sort of crucified look, or they can go up and down. Of course, they are connected to the action feature, so they're kind of tricky to maneuver. The tail can be rotated around 360 degrees. Not sure why you would want to, but it can be done. So if you're worried about that, fear not. The tail can rotate 360 degrees, and now we have to get him to stand up again. Now, while I'm on the subject of the action features, why don't we go ahead and do a little demonstration for you here. There are two buttons. The first one triggers the jaw chomping action there, as you can see, just gives you that big, nice chomp, and then the back button triggers the hand claw scratching action. Now this is the first dual attack dinosaur with claw scratching action, and it's something that I have been waiting for. I absolutely despise the tail swinging action feature on most of the other dual attacks, especially on the Concavinator. Like, that's just a moot point, because you could just swing the tail of the toy yourself. Whatever, why do I need a button? But I gotta say, after waiting so long to see a carnivore with slashing action, I'm not a big fan of this sort of uniform motion here. Like, if I move the hands out of each other's way a bit, like alternating of each other, it's a little bit better. But the fact that they both go up at the same time and give you that sort of, it's a cat at a scratching post motion, I don't like that. I would have much rather it been that sort of Savage Strike Blue alternative where they had the alternating up, down, up, down, up, down motion. I don't know, I feel like that would have been a lot more satisfying than cat scratch attack. It just looks a little bit silly to me. It's like those classic dinosaur puppets on the old movies. It doesn't look great. As far as the height on this thing goes, from the tip, or excuse me, length at his full position from the tip of the snout to the tip of the tail, you're looking at 12 inches long, and then from the base all the way to the highest point, you're looking at right around 8.5 inches off the ground, which is about 22 centimeters. Bear in mind, this is with him reared up to his fullest position. It is subject to change, given however you choose to pose your particular Allosaurus. For size comparison, I went ahead and brought in the Rorovor's Allosaurus, and as you can see, they are very similar in terms of their size. Not a whole lot of difference here, but it's really just kind of a comparison in terms of the sculpt that I wanted to do. In terms of the head shape overall, I think the Rorovor captures the likeness of the Allosaurus a little bit better, from profile that is. But beyond that, I see no reason not to place the dual attack Allosaurus over the Rorovor's Allosaurus any day. I find the sculptural prowess is much more impressive on the dual attack. It feels a lot more like a dinosaur rather than a simple toy like the Allosaurus. You don't have those big, goofy teeth. And another thing that Mattel went and addressed was the box-headedness of the Rorovors. As you can see, the dual attack head is much slimmer, a lot less boxy. It looks just so much better from the front. And again, I already mentioned how ridiculous the teeth in the Rorovor look. So, you know, it's definitely an all-around improvement with this dual attack. Next up, for size comparison, I went ahead and brought in the Nasutoceratops. I gotta say, I do like how these two look next to each other. Their vibrant color schemes really play off of each other quite well, but also make them look like they do belong into the same universe. And I gotta say, I'm a bit disappointed that we are not getting the Battle at Big Rock film sooner. Colin Trevorrow did tweet during the making of this video that it will be coming to us shortly. I don't know what that means. He didn't say that exactly, but he said it never died. That's what I can tell you. Alright, next up for size comparison, we have got the Savage Strike Dilophosaurus, which we reviewed on the channel. I will put a link into the description for this, and the Nasutoceratops, and of course the Allosaurus Rorovor. But yeah, the Allosaurus does come up taller than the Dilophosaurus at its hip, mind you, and I just think overall looks a little bit better in terms of its design and paint and all of that stuff. Anyone who's not new to my channel knows I do not like this Dilophosaurus. And finally, for size comparison, I'm going to go ahead and bring in a mercenary, if he'll stand for us, just to kind of give that sort of 3 3/4 inch perspective and the humans. And I gotta say, I do think this one does size up quite well with its Allosaurus counterpart. Looks very good. And, of course, kids can have fun, you know, eating the heck out of these 3 3/4 inch figures with their Allosaurus. And he does stay in the jaw pretty well. I can shake him around and he's not going anywhere. So that's a pretty powerful mechanism they got going on there, which is always nice to see. Well, everyone, that is going to do it for our look at the Mattel Dual Attack Allosaurus. Overall, I'm quite pleased with this model. I think it does have some key issues, the proportions being the biggest one, the head just being way too big, the tail just being way too short. But beyond that, I do think it is a vast improvement over the previous Allosaurus offering from Mattel, and I'd actually really like to see them do this model with the deco of the original to make it more screen accurate to what we saw in Fallen Kingdom. I know this is supposed to be based off of another Allosaurus entirely, but even so, if we're not going to see Battle at Big Rock in the distant future, in the immediate future, excuse me, it would be nice to see a more screen accurate Allosaurus to the Jurassic World offering. That is still an improvement upon the Roarvor. If you were to ask me who've done it better, Mattel, Hasbro, or Kenner, excuse me, I'm still going to give this one to Hasbro for their Allosaurus Assault offering back in the early 2000s. That thing will always be one of the best dinosaurs that came out of the Jurassic Park lineup, and easily the best thing that Hasbro ever gave us. For a final rating on this thing, I think I'll go ahead and give it a 7 out of 10, and as always, I would love to know what you guys think of it. Leave your comments down below. I love hearing your thoughts, and as always, if you enjoyed our review today, don't be afraid to let us know by hitting that like button, and don't forget to subscribe on the way out for future killer toy reviews. Thanks again for tuning in, and we will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.